Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Rewildology, the show all about conservation, travel, and rewilding the planet. I'm your host, Brooke Mitchell-Norman, conservation biologist and adventure traveler. We all have a unique story full of pivotal moments, which makes exploring the human experience so fascinating. Some of us have had a life full of struggle, while others have gotten through relatively easily. No one knows why we experience what we do, but every step lays the foundation for who we become and the work we pursue. Today's guest, Carolina Powell, is the perfect combination of perseverance and determination. Being a first-generation Colombian-American, Carolina was raised by a single mother who immigrated to Miami, Florida, in the hopes of offering her daughter a better life. Like many of us in this field, Carolina first thought she was going to be a veterinarian until she worked with a vet whose values, or lack thereof, didn't align with her own. After interning in the Bronx Zoo's development department, she was introduced to the zoo conservation field and spent the next year doing everything she could to finally land a full-time zookeeping job. Her perseverance paid off, and she's now a primate keeper at the prestigious Smithsonian's National Zoo. Carolina is also a member of the leadership team for the newly formed AMZAP organization, whose mission is to build a sense of community amongst minorities currently working in the zoo field and to promote animal care and conservation careers as viable options for interested minorities. At the end of our conversation, Carolina informed me that she shared parts of her story that haven't been told before in other interviews, and I'm very excited to bring them to you today. If you'd like to connect with Carolina or become a member of AMZAP, please be sure to check out amzap.org. If you like this episode, please subscribe to the show and give it a rating and review wherever you're listening. If you'd like to join a community of other awesome conservation-minded folks, join the Rewildologist community Facebook group by clicking the link in the show notes or searching for Rewildologist. All right, everyone, now onto my conversation with Carolina. All right. Thank you so much, Carolina, for coming on. I'm so excited to have you and talk about your story because it's definitely a unique one. And I know that a lot of people will really connect with your story. So I'm very excited to get into it. So, on
Thank
that
you.
note, let's start from square one. You have a very different childhood than I would say most people in the US do. So, take me back in time. Where did you grow up and what was it like for you?
So I was born in Miami, Florida, and we ended up actually lived in Colombia for a little bit in South America, just for maybe like 3 years as a child, and then we went back to Florida, and then my mom and I moved to New Jersey. So my mom raised me, a single mom, and also in growing up in Florida and South Florida, so Miami, everyone is a Spanish speaker for the most part. So life is very different there. So I think her moving up to New Jersey was a little bit difficult for her. And I mean, in a good way, she had to kind of learn English a little bit more. But regardless, I did most of the translations for her and the interpreting for her. So that was interesting. And I think stuff like applying for schools and I went to a high school that I had to apply for. Like I didn't go to my local high school. I went to a tech
Mm-hmm.
school, and I majored in like pre-engineering because at the time I wanted to be a vet. So it was kind of like, ooh, math and science that will help me.
Yes, totally.
um, yeah. So it was just basically what I was saying. So colleges and applying for like financial aid and everything where people usually have guidance from their parents and other people that are like, yeah, do this, take out this loan, or don't do this. I was just kind of like doing it all on my own and like asking her to sign things and translating for her the documents that I barely understood as well. So that was it for the most part. I mean, obviously, growing up was a lot harder, I think, than most people. Just again, as you can imagine, she was working full time, single mom. I would come home from school and just like we lived, we started out living in like a room basically. So we didn't have an apartment, a house, or anything. It was just kind of like go to your room, and then wait for him to get home from school, from work. So yeah, it was a lot of that, but eventually we were able to move into our own apartment with no other strangers living in the house. And that was nice. And I think it's important for people to know that I think a lot more people do go through that maybe than you would think, especially coming from like an immigrant family. It's definitely hard to do that. And on top of it, my mom was also very strict, which
Mm.
makes sense, only child and single mom. So my social life as a kid was also very different. There's a lot of things that I couldn't do. So it was a very kind of like a sheltered life growing up. But you know, we made it. It's fine.
Yeah. Let's explore that a little bit more. Because I really would love to learn. I love hearing people's stories, like the whys
hmm
people make decisions. So, what brought your mom to the US from Colombia? Why did she make such a scary leap?
Um, I think I think she just was vacationing when she was younger and liked it because it was before she had me or anything. And then she decided to stay. And when she did have me, I think that's when she was like, well, I staying in the US is going to give her much better opportunities than going back to Colombia. And I think she just stayed for me, basically. Yeah.
And how old was she when she had you?
Oh, when she had me,
Yeah.
35.
Oh wow, really? And how long has she been in the US at that point?
I want to say like 10 years, but I don't quote me at that because I don't know for a fact. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm not
Wow, yeah.
100% sure.
That's
So
amazing.
yeah. hmm But again,
And
it's funny because a lot of people will often just be like, "Oh, I don't understand how people that live in the U.S. don't know English," and I get what they're saying in a way, but at the same time, when you grow up or you live in a place like Miami, Florida, where you don't need to learn English at all, she just didn't have to. And she did go to school. She did like take English classes and stuff like that. And she gets by and she works and all that. But it obviously wasn't as necessary as it is when you move up north.
yeah, absolutely. So that 3 year stint that you were down in Colombia, do you remember that at all? How
I
old were
remember
you?
a little bit
Mm.
like pre-K type
Oh,
thing. I think I moved back to Florida like age 4.
oh wow. Okay, okay. And
Yeah,
was it
yeah.
just to like meet family, or was your mom considering moving back to Colombia?
I honestly don't know. I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
remember. I don't know if I don't know. I have no idea. And at that point, my dad was in our lives as well. So my dad was around up until we went back to Miami, Florida, and then he basically flew back to Colombia and just stayed there when I was like 7 or so.
So your father's
Yeah.
also Colombian then?
Yes, yes, yeah. Both parents are
Okay.
Colombian, but they met in the U.S.
Oh, really? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. That is so beautiful. Oh, I guess that maybe Miami life just wasn't for him. Um, but wow, yeah, so that definitely sounds like a lot of back and forth and just m- maybe even like try to navigate like your identity through all of that too, because you were
Mhm.
raised American, but your family's
Right,
very Colombian.
right.
Um, so I mean, what was that like for you? I mean, it sounds like you grew up in Miami a lot, so maybe you didn't have as much if you like grew up somewhere else, but did you have any like identity issues with that kind of stuff, or what was that like for you?
Honestly, I don't think so. So I stayed in Miami till I was in like second grade. So not that long in the grand scheme of
Mm.
things. But no, I think so where we moved to Inglewood, New Jersey, which is also heavily Colombian. And
Oh,
it has also, yeah, and it has a lot of other minorities as well. So going to school, I think the biggest thing was more our social economic status that was kind of harder for me.
okay.
And like again, I started out living. I lived with my aunt for a little bit, and then I lived in a basement with my mom, and then I lived in that house in a room in an attic, and things like that, where it's like, you can't be like, hey, friends, come over. That like things like that were a little bit difficult. But as far as identity, no, I never,
Good.
I'm Colombian. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
Colombian, and then being raised in the US. But that was the hardest part, I think, just knowing that, you know, I had a different life. And even when I was like really young, like when I first moved to New Jersey, I was wearing hand me down clothing, and I was wearing like the same sweater to school every day, and, things like that, where kids notice, and they'd be like, why are you wearing that? Like
Did
bullying a
you just
little
wear that
bit.
yesterday? Those asshole
Yeah,
kid things.
yeah, yeah. So it was a little bit of that, um, that I had to, like, again, navigate and struggle. But as our situation got better, obviously that got better. And then eventually I kind of came to be the person that I am, where it's like a no nonsense, don't take shit from anyone type of thing.
Freaking
So
love it. Yes.
yeah. But
Great.
it was definitely a struggle at first.
No, that's awesome. And I just asked that because I've had I'm so grateful where I've had that opportunity to talk to other people, and sometimes I've met people that have like a true like identity, like they don't know, they haven't quite figured
Hmm.
out exactly what their identity is. And so I really wanted just to explore that with you too. And because I feel like we all sometimes just question things, and but it's just, oh my gosh, it's just so freaking awesome. This is great. So what brought you guys to New Jersey, you and your mom? What was that? Because that's a huge, I mean, that's a huge transition again, going from completely like different continents, Colombia to Florida, and now all the way up to New Jersey, where like, hello, snow. So
Yeah.
what brought her up there?
My aunt. So we had
Oh,
family on my dad's side. So my aunt and godmom lives in Inglewood, and we had cousins and all that. So I think my aunt was like, hey, you can probably get a job here. I think it was more like job opportunities and things like that. So she made the decision to come, and the two of us just moved up. And like I said, we started out staying out with my aunt for a little bit, and then eventually moved out, and that's it.
mm. Oh, that's awesome. That's exciting.
Hmm.
So, so back to you. So then let's go to your educational stuff. And it sounds like you definitely had some more struggles that you worked through. So like you went to a tech school, and you had to like apply all these things yourself. So what was that like trying to figure out just how to navigate all of this stuff without an adult figure? Did you have like a guidance counselor in any way, or like a mentor of anything, or did you just have to figure it out yourself? What was that like?
Yeah, definitely a lot of figuring it out myself. And like I would talk to my mom about it. And my mom, her biggest thing was like, go to school, go to school, get an education, be successful. That has always been like the number one thing, always been ingrained in my head. So in a way, that was the guidance. But as far as like signing like papers and reading stuff, I would just like translate to the best of my abilities to her, and then we'd like figure it out together. Um, but that's it. I mean, not really. I had teachers that I liked and things like that, but there wasn't anyone that like a sole person that I would always go to. I think I've always just been very self reliant. And I think because I was alone so much, it was just kind of like, well, that's the way it is. Like, you just got to do it.
Mm.
So yeah, we just figure it out as I go.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, that's a lot to put on like, a young girl. So, it's amazing, but it because of that though, you have this beautiful story of being triumphant through all of the stuff. So, let's get to your education, because it sounds like this is something that your mom really instilled in you. Like she wanted the best for you. So,
Yeah.
take me through all of your educational everything. So you already kind of said a little bit that you like went to this tech school because you're going to be a veterinarian. So like let's explore that. What did you end up studying and everything?
So I always said I wanted to be a vet. I thought that was the only option. I didn't realize all the other animal careers that were out there. So I was looking at vet schools in middle school. So I've always been very I don't know, I guess goal oriented and like focused. So I'm like, that's what I want. That's what I'm going to get. So I started looking at vet schools in middle school and I was like, cool. Michigan has schools, Cornell has school, yeah, Penn State has schools. So like, I was like, all right, cool. Those are the ones that I got to look into. Rutgers has animal science and pre-vet stuff. So yeah, I knew that it was a lot of math and science, and I applied to this high school, Bergen Tech in Teterboro, and that had the pre-engineering, got into that, did a lot of math and science in there. And then I applied to Rutgers University in New Jersey for animal science. It was in state. It was not too close, but also not crazy far where I can still see my mom and commute back home. So I went there, I got into Rutgers for animal science. And then during that span, I started working with a veterinarian in my hometown. And that's when I was like, I don't think this is for me. And I think that was hard for everyone. It was hard for me because I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And then my mom, I think, was like, very disappointed because again, that was, I think, like the pinnacle, like you're going to be a doctor and like this is great, you're going to, live the American dream and be successful. And then I'm like, no, I don't want to do this. And
What was it about it that you didn't like? That what about being in that office changed your mind?
it was a specific vet and I know not every vet is
Mm.
the same, but it was a private practice. It was super business oriented. He seemed to care, honestly, just about the money. Like it is like he lied about having a pet, like he didn't have a pet, like just like weird things like that I was like, ooh, I don't like this. And not only that, but I think I wanted to, I don't know, work with bigger animals and do, I think I always was attracted to wildlife, but I didn't know how to do it. So that's why I was like, oh, maybe I can do like wildlife biologist. What does that even mean? I don't know what that is. So it's like, that's what kind of got me thinking, like, I don't want to do this every day, like at all. I don't want to,
Mm.
I love cats and dogs and all that, but I don't want to do this. I want to do something bigger and work with like larger animals. Granted, I know you can be a vet with zoos and stuff like that, but it was just kind of like, career change. Like, I just want to just switch it up and do something else. So when I graduated Rutgers, I was just floating by, not knowing what I wanted to do. Um, I
And
was just,
mama
yeah,
was
I was
not too
looking at
happy.
careers. No, no, she was not.
Oh.
Because you went to school, you were supposed to be successful and become a doctor, and now what? So it was not great.
Mm. I'm sure that was a very turmoil, soul searching time.
Yeah,
So then what did
it
you end up
was.
doing next?
Um, so the summer after I graduated, I applied for an internship at the Bronx Zoo, but it was not with animals. It was in their development department. So it was like raising money for the zoo and for the organization, which is the Wildlife Conservation Society. And they do a ton, like all over the world. So they do a lot of great things. And I was like, okay, maybe I can do this. Maybe it's not working directly with animals, but I can still help them in some way by raising money this way. And I get to still be in a zoo, but I don't know. This could be a way to help them. I also thought about like um, environmental policy
Mm.
and becoming like a lobbyist, and or maybe I'll work for the EPA. Like I had so many things. Like I knew what I wanted. I was like, I want to help wildlife and animals, but I don't really know how to do it. So these are all the things that like were coming across my mind. Um, so after I left the internship, I still didn't know what I was going to do. I got a certification. Basically, I'm a certified animal control officer for New Jersey. So I did that. I went on the truck and like, you pick up roadkill and
Oh my
you
God.
control and you control, like you like make sure. I mean, there are like animal abuse cases and things like that. And I was like, maybe I'll, in New Jersey, at least, they have like a next step and you become like an animal cruelty investigator. And I was like, okay, I'll be like Ace Ventura, pet detective. And like, maybe that's what I'll do. And I'm like, can I make a career out of this? And I think after like some like legit soul searching, I was like, no, I don't want to do this. Like, this is not for me. So I emailed the lady back, not back. I emailed my old supervisor and I was like, hey, it's been like months at this point. I feel like maybe even almost a year. And I was like, I want to work with animals. Can you get me in contact with anyone of the animal department at the zoo? And she also, like, admin people at the zoos don't really know animal department people. It's just like a very different world. So she just gave me a list of curators at the Bronx, and I emailed every single one of them. Like, hey, I'm Carolina. I'd like to do anything. Can I help? Can I volunteer? Can I shadow? And no one replied to me except for one person. And she was the ornithology curator at the Bronx Zoo. And she was like, no, we don't need anyone. Thanks, though. And I was like, ugh. So I responded and I was like, well, thank you so much. Is there any time that maybe I can come and meet you and talk about your career? Because at that point, being a curator was appealing to me because I was like, okay, it's still a higher level position, but it's in a zoo and I could work my way up. And, so she allowed me to come and talk to her. And it was like the best day ever when I got that response. I'm like, cool, this is my chance. This is it. And then I spoke to her. And at the end of that conversation, she got me in contact with another curator at the Central Park Zoo, which is under the same organization. And she also said I can come and help once a week with birds in her area. And that was like, I think my big non-paid break. Cause then I started, working internships and volunteering all over New York. And then until I finally got my job, but it was definitely a struggle and a journey.
Yeah. So how long from that point? So you're finally starting to volunteer. You're getting the work. Were you also had like another job that you were doing while you were volunteering? So, okay. So I imagine then lots of hours of your week are spent trying to make it. So how long were you volunteering before you landed your first job?
I started volunteering, I want to say in 2013, and then I landed I got a temp job in 2013 at the Queen Zoo, but it was only 3 months, and it was like covering for someone that was on maternity leave, and so she came back and I left. And then I went back to interning for about 6 months, and I officially started working in 2014. So about a year and a half, which honestly, in retrospect, I feel like maybe it's not that long compared to what other people have gone through as far as like not getting jobs or only like getting seasonals and all that. But during that year or year and a half, it was still a bunch of no's. So it seems longer when you're in it. And it's like you're volunteering for a year, So I was working retail. I was working at a liquor store. I thought maybe like I was getting so, I guess, disappointed. I was like, well, maybe I can like volunteer and that will be like my fix for the zoo, but like I'll manage a store, like something like stuff that I'm like, I can't believe I even thought about that because no, I would never do that. But it was a point where I'm like, am I just wasting my time and my money? Because I was just commuting every time unpaid to New York City. And it was like a 2-hour commute with a bus and a subway.
That's
each
a
way.
lot.
Yeah. And plus then I have my mom being like, what's going on? Like, and the two of us are in our 1-bedroom apartment and she's like, this is what you went to school for, So it was a bad time. It was rough, but again, we made it through.
What got you through that then? Because I a lot of people would have given up, and understandably, but what kept you going?
Um, I am a very determined person. I think due to my upbringing, where it's always been tough, I feel like I haven't had any other option but to be very positive and have a very idealistic outlook because it's kind of like, well, it doesn't get worse than this, so you have to be happy, because you can't, like, I feel like it's so easy to dwell in the negativity.
Mm.
So I've always been a big like dreamer and always looking ahead and always thinking that there's something better, like keep going, it's going to get better. So honestly, I think it was a lot of that. It was just like my mindset, and I don't know how that started. Again, I'm convinced it's from that. It's from years of just having a harder upbringing, that it was just kind of like, it's going to get better, you know? So
Mm-hmm.
I think that, and I think putting all my focus into that, you know, when you do have a plan B, like, I know there's like a saying about that, like, if you have a plan B, you've already kind of like failed. So it's like, if you put like all your energy into one goal, I don't see how you can fail. You know what I mean? Like,
It's
I mean,
beautiful.
maybe it doesn't work like that for everyone, but it's kind of like, I was focused and this is what I want to do, and I'm going to do it. Like, I'm going to do, I'm going to do it. So I'm just a very determined and, I guess, ambitious person.
Yes. I mean, how many people will take multiple forms of public transportation 2 hours one way just to go to a volunteer job because you know it's going to eventually materialize into the thing you want? Like for a year. I mean, that's not a
Mhm.
short amount of time. I mean, it's not that long, I know, but just like you said, when you're in
Yeah.
it
Right.
though, you're like, this is the
Yeah.
longest goddamn year of my life.
Mhm.
When is this going to end? Somebody please hire me.
And like, at that point, I was out of college for like maybe 2 years. So it's like even worse, because I'm like, oh my God, I graduated from college and I don't know what I'm doing. And I've been just not starting my career. Like, I hadn't began my career, and it's hard to not see, like, you know, social media, and you see your friends that also graduated with you or other people that graduated, and they're like super successful, or so it appears to be, you know, and it's like, here I am working my retail job with my bachelor's degree. So that was a lot. That was hard too. Um, just a lot of mental things that you like have to get through. But
And
even
you did.
when I started, yeah, no, thank you. I like, even when I was interning, and when I got my job, I got an entry level job at the Maryland Zoo, but I felt like I was like older, you know, like I was like, I'm late to this. Or a lot of people, where if they know what they want to do, or even if they knew right after they graduated, you can volunteer and get internships while you're in college or right after, like hands-on animal stuff, and that always helps to succeed. So I feel like I started 2 years after I graduated college on this career path, and then I was like, I'm like 27, just like interning at a zoo, where you get people that are like 22 and fresh out of college, and like they're getting full-time jobs. So that kind of was also like, all right, I'm late in the game, but I'm going to do it. So I feel like there was a lot of things that were on my mind.
Mm. Yeah, because I interviewed Johnny Payne on here, and she had a very similar story too. Like
Mm,
just finding the zookeeping field late and having to go through that as well, and how long it
yeah.
took her to land a job. Because she's like switched her major like midway through college, and like, oh my god, this is what
Mm,
I want to do. I need to switch everything, my entire plan up until now to make this work. And so, yeah, I've definitely heard that
yeah.
more than once, but it's all good because look, you got this full-time awesome job. So,
Yeah.
what was the first role that you landed, and how did you get that?
So I got first full-time permanent position was at the Maryland Zoo in Baltimore, and it was called a keeper two. It is now called a relief keeper. So the job was, so I guess let me backtrack a little bit. So I started working at Macy's in their beauty department, and I was like, this is cool, I get discounts. And then I got the call saying that I got the job. Well, I applied, sorry, obviously. And I went to interview, and my now husband, but he was my boyfriend then, drove me to Baltimore because I didn't have a car. So we drove, it was a 1 day trip, 3 hours to Baltimore,
Ah.
interview in person. Cause the lady was like, the HR person was like, oh, you can do it over the phone or you can come in person. I was like, oh, I'm going. So we went,
It's awesome.
we went in person. Yeah. He drove me. I did my interview and then we ate in the National Harbor and then, or came back to New Jersey. And then the next day, I think it was my mom's birthday, I got the call and they were like, all right, we'd like to offer you a job. And the job was like giraffe feeding station. So it was making sure people aren't like petting the giraffe and the goat corral, making sure people are not feeding the goats, just brushing them and helping out in the different areas. And I was like, oh God, I don't know. Like, I don't know what to do because I didn't actually think I was going to get it, I guess. I was like, oh crap, like I have to move. And my mom was like sitting there when I was like taking the phone call and I was like, uh,
Am I excited? Am I
and
not, Mom?
yeah. So I feel like I told the HR lady that I don't know if I said, can I call you back? Like, can I like have some time to think about this and then give you a response? And they're like, yeah, how long do you need? And I think I was like, something crazy like 2 weeks or something like that because I had also applied for a job at the place where I was interning in Brooklyn. So I was like, well, if I get that job, I don't have to move and it'll just be super
Mm.
duper easy and I'll just stay where I am. So she's like, yeah, I can't wait 2 weeks. I'm like, okay, a few days. So I thought about it. I interviewed for the job in Brooklyn. I think I bombed that interview in Brooklyn. And I think I told my mom, even before they even told me, I was like, I think I'm going to get it. And I asked the question I asked like on Facebook to like the zookeeping page and other keepers that were with me in Brooklyn. And people were like, go to Maryland. It's a great zoo. You'll love it. Just go, go, go. So I was like, all right, I'm going to do it. And then I went, I moved in with a roommate that I met the day I moved in. The two of like, yeah, she was also in the same position, like brand new, just getting in there. We're like, all right, we like Skyped for a little bit, make sure neither of us are crazy. And then
Yeah.
we met the day we moved in. Again, my boyfriend at the time drove me down with some furniture and that was it. Um, and moving in, again, I moved to Baltimore without a car. So, and I told my roommate that. So luckily she and I were able to carpool. So she would just drive me to work when on the days that she worked. And then on the day she was off, I was just taking public transportation. I only lived like 4 miles from the zoo.
Oh,
Public
good.
transportation took me like an hour and a half.
Oh my
It
God, are
was
you
the most
serious?
ridiculous thing on earth. I don't understand why.
You poor thing. Oh my gosh.
So
Oh.
it was, I took the bus 1 day for my orientation and like Baltimore has areas that are the hood basically and it's a different hood. I always say it's a different hood than New York City hood. So I just got off and I was just like, all right, we're gonna just walk through here. And I mean everything was fine, but it was definitely scary for me. um
Absolutely.
and it was a long walk. um and I'm like a pro like public transportation user from being in New Jersey and New York, but this was not the same. And another time I got lost. I just took the wrong bus and it again just dropped me off in the morning. So I called a taxi and the taxi took me to my job in the morning to work. And I was like, oh, this is the worst thing ever. So eventually other keepers found out like where I lived and a lot of them, luckily it was an area that people drove by all the time. So some people started helping me out, which I'm like forever grateful for because I didn't often have to take the bus anymore. And like between all the different people I was able to get to and from work, but it was a fiasco. um,
Wow. Wow.
but yeah,
So how long were you at that first job?
um, About 5 years. About 5 years. So it was that position for about a year, and then I got promoted to the primate position. So that's when I worked with the chimps and lemurs and monkeys and all that,
Mm.
and I loved
No,
it.
you're like, yes, this is
I
it.
yeah, yeah. And even I mean, even being a keeper too, just being in a zoo of that size, because the other zoos where I was, besides the Bronx, which is only with the birds though, all the animals were really small. So I was like, I got to feed a giraffe. Like, this is the greatest thing ever. Like, every time I would see a new animal, I was like, like, this is a rhino. I get to feed a rhino or touch a rhino. And it was just like every time, like, I would help in a new area and I'd be like, this is the best. um, yeah, no, and I am super grateful to the Maryland Zoo and all the staff there, and even keepers, just because they gave me the opportunity, and like, ugh, it was such a hard thing to do, and thinking that I would never get there, and having that happen, and then getting my chimp position, which is even a bigger step. Like, now you're like a real keeper, like full time, like dangerous animals. That was like a big deal for me.
Mm. And during this time, were you doing long distance with your boyfriend, or did he move to Baltimore, or how'd that work
He
out?
he he moved to Baltimore about a year later after I moved. And then um and then we got engaged, and then we got married. We got married in 2018. But yeah, so it's funny. I told him, I was like, don't come down here, like, because he had just graduated with his master's degree, and he was doing a lot of stuff in hospitals in New York City. And I was like, like, do your thing, like, get your career. Like, don't worry about coming here. Like, I think I was fine with it, I guess. I think it bothered him more. I think he really wanted
Mm.
to be closer. Um, and I very much appreciate that, because, again, like, having him closer, we were able to do so many other things. And I got my first car with him because of him. And, that really changed things a lot too. So,
Mhm. Oh, that's
yeah, he was
beautiful.
like, yeah, 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 definitely. Also a huge part of everything, and helping me get to where I am, and helping me move, and driving me places, because he had to drive me everywhere because I didn't have a car. And at one point I didn't have a license either, or know how to drive. And I was terrified of getting on the highway. And
Yes.
so yeah, he was a huge support system for me.
Wow. Yeah, he sounds like an amazing guy. Awesome. Um, mm, it's great.
Yes, very lucky.
So I'm assuming that you said you were there for 5 years, so that clearly is not where you are now,
Mhm.
correct? So then what was the next step in your journey? What did you do next?
So I wanted to do more. I always wanted to do more. And I felt that I couldn't do that, unfortunately, at the zoo where I was, mainly just because of just the lack of resources. It's so hard for zoos. They have such limited amount of funding, and obviously it all goes to animal care. So it's hard to do like the professional development. Like, I really wanted to grow professionally and move up, and take courses and attend conferences, and I just wanted to do everything, and I knew that it was a lot harder to do it there. So I applied to the National Zoo, Smithsonian's National Zoo in DC, and I was, again, very fortunate that I got that job, and I've been there now for about 2 years, and also loving it. Same thing, super grateful for the staff and for the people that hired me and gave me the
Mhm.
opportunity to be there.
That's
Hmm.
awesome. And what exactly do you do? Are you doing a similar role, or what's your what do you do?
Yeah, so I am a keeper there as well. So a primate keeper. So instead of chimps, I have gorillas and orangutans, and then we also have other monkeys and lemurs and siamings. So I'm still in the training process because I'm still new, and COVID kind of put like a halt to some
Mm.
training and everything. But almost there, almost completely done with everything that would be under my responsibility. And it's been great. It's been awesome to see the different apes and the different species and how they differ in how similar they are. And um, I love training, and training animals new behaviors, or getting animals to come out of their shell and behave a certain way is always like the best part of my job and the highlight of
Mm,
my job. Yeah.
I bet. And I bet that zoo, just me knowing it very well, I'm sure that from a conservation standpoint, that there's a lot that goes on. And I'm sure so many projects that are supported through the National Zoo. I'm sure that was
Yeah.
probably really cool difference for you going from a smaller zoo to a bigger zoo, where that is one
Yeah.
of their missions, is to support as many projects. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know all the things that they support,
Right.
but I'm sure it's quite extensive.
Yeah, I think because we're federally funded, for one, and then such a well-known institution like it's Smithsonian. Everyone knows the Smithsonian. They have a lot of resources for conservation, but also for staff growth and professional development, and that was like a huge allure for me. Also, they pay better because they're federally funded. I am a federal employee. I get all these benefits, and the pay increase was pretty big. So that was also very nice for me to have.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
bet.
unfortunate how little zookeepers make.
Yep.
It's sad.
Yep. That's one of the reasons why I had to leave the field. It's like, huh.
Yeah,
So I'm never going to pay back my student loans on this. All right. All right. I need to
yeah.
I need to rethink my life. And so I did that.
It's
But yeah.
unfortunate, yeah,
Hmm.
and a lot of people do it. A lot of people will do it for a little bit, and they're like, "I can't do this forever."
Right.
It's sad. Yeah,
Yeah. See that so many times. I mean, hopefully that'll change. I'm not quite sure what model needs to change for that to happen. I haven't really like sat down and thought about, fixing the
hmm
world. There's so many things to focus on. But I mean, even yesterday, I was talking with this amazing executive director of a nonprofit, and she was talking significantly about that, about how little pay there is in the nonprofit sector, and yet the nonprofit sector is fixing some of the biggest issues that there are on this planet. And zoos, no
yeah,
matter what somebody feels about them, they are some of the biggest conservation organizations there are. And
yeah,
for how little pay that for the amount of impact that a lot of zoos do, for the little pay that is given to the staff, is just, I just wish there was another way that we could tackle that in some way. And I
hmm
mean, I don't know. I'm definitely not in development or like in business in any way, shape, or form when it comes to like the zoo world, but I can just see that as a big need, and
right,
how, the quality of everything. I mean, just, when it's better pay, then everything's better in every way. So, I mean, maybe we'll see that. Hopefully, one day that'll change. And so it's just great to hear that you were able to land a much better job, by sticking it out and probably eating a whole bunch of like Kraft mac and cheese and peanut butter and jellies in the meantime.
yeah, yeah. It was a process, but yeah, it's definitely something that needs to change. Yeah, it's hard, and like that's I think the low pay is also prevents a lot of people from wanting to be keepers. So people leave, but also people don't want to apply or don't want to work as a keeper, because who wants to make minimum wage or a little bit above minimum wage? And it's difficult. Yeah, and I think that absolutely also affects like diversity. And with AMZAP,
Absolutely.
we've talked about it a lot. um, and also the fact that zoos don't offer paid internships or even a stipend. Like I always said, I'm like, can I get like anything for just the bus and the train? Like, I'm not asking for any other money, just cover my commute so I can like live. So
No,
yeah.
I completely agree. Yeah, I went through all those unpaid internships, and that's, my student loan debt is not little. We will just say
Yeah.
that, because you have to
Yeah.
work full time essentially
Yep.
in these unpaid internships. And to cover some of them, at least in my story, I mean, I took out loans or
Right.
because I wanted to do it so bad. And I mean, it is what it is. Like, it's part of my story and why I love talking about it, and
Yeah.
just hoping that more and more people, they can make a more educated decision on maybe what can you do to get that experience, but also not put yourself in a bad financial situation. And also, the more we talk about it, be like, hey, at least pay something, even if that
Yeah.
means that might have to do an extra round of funding or like fundraising or something, just to make it more accessible. I mean, I couldn't, when I was interning, I easily had 2 other jobs just to make ends meet.
Right.
And that was on top of the student loans that I was helping to make the other ends meet. And it's all too common in our field that that's the story. And then
Yeah.
you're like, okay, finally I graduated. Now I can get this job where I don't make much money and I'm just going to owe student loans for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Okay, solid. I guess that's my life.
Yeah. 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 And I think all zookeepers that, we all do it for the love of it and for the passion behind the work. So like a lot of people will do it, but I feel like that can only last so long. Not only that, zookeeping is also physically taxing, depending
It's
on,
hard, yeah.
what animals you're working with. Your body's gonna give out. And then what? Then what are you gonna
Yeah.
do?
Yeah,
So
that's a really good point. Especially for people who might not be in the field. I mean, because you think of like, outdoor labor jobs as, those are like the hard jobs, and zookeeping is an outdoor labor job. Like, it is
yeah.
not easy, because I entered as well in the Asia Quest area for the Columbus Zoo, and that's with pachyderms. So, your elephants, your
Okay.
rhinos, and then some other internships that I did too with other big, large animals. And I mean, it's tough. It is hard, and you smell like shit every single day.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but it's fun. We were all raunchy as hell. Said some super inappropriate things that I cannot repeat, even on this podcast where we say whatever we want. There's some things we just don't need to put out there in public, but but it's fun.
Yeah, I mean, I still love it. Absolutely love it. Yeah, wouldn't want to do anything else.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's great. And I'm just, it's so great to hear those like success stories where you are still doing it, because I've met so many people that they just aren't anymore. For reasons they're just not. So it's just so great to hear that you still are. So let's shift a little bit now.
Yeah.
So let's talk about AMZAP. What is this organization and what is its goal? Everything. 'Cause I love this. I love everything about it. I was like, oh my God, I need to have somebody on. Yes. So what is it?
So AMZAP. So it's the Association of Minority Zoo and Aquarium Professionals. And AMZAP is just the easiest thing to say because it's such a long name. But it is basically a brand new organization where ethnic and racial minorities can kind of, from the zoo field, can kind of come together, and it's for networking. So it's for, seeing each other and realizing that we're not alone. There's more of us out there. We have a mission and a goal for outreach. We want to get more of us into the field. We want to get kids interested and show them that they can do it too. Like, let them see people that look like them and sound like them and realize like, oh, that is an option for me too. I can do that. We basically want to do outreach at all the levels. We also want to get the representation from all the facilities that exist right now. So, we've been doing on Facebook kind of like these posts every day, and it kind of highlights a new member, and people love that. It kind of shows people, it highlights the fact that there is diversity. There's some diversity. And it kind of, I think that's like such an easy way for zoos to show their support. And it's just by, one, supporting us, and then two, showcasing these faces and allowing others to see that, that we are out here. Um, and then we also do mentoring. So, and that's kind of where my field is. It's mentorship and helping kids and students and people that left the field but want to get back in, just get, know how to get into the field, or sometimes they just want to talk to other people just for guidance, or just tell their stories and chat and just get to know other people that are like them, that are in this field. And it's not just zookeepers, we have veterinarians, we have directors, vet techs, we have media people, and it's like all over. We have everything. And it's been great to see all the support that we've been getting so far. And we just started officially in February. So
It's been amazing to watch.
we have a lot. Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So
Yeah.
how did you become a part of it? Because I mean, like, you're all like on the leadership page and everything. So what
Yeah.
was that process like for you? Were you part of the idea? Like, how did it come to be? And how did you make this organization? And then also too, what do you hope to accomplish being a part of this really cool organization?
Yeah, so Craig, who is kind of like the mastermind behind it, he, I think, always wanted to do something like this, but I think I don't know if he just wasn't sure how to go about it, or just hadn't talked to people yet. It was just like always an idea that it's like, I want to do this, I want to do this. So one day he literally just came to me and was like, hey, he basically was like, you're a minority, right? I was like, yeah. And we just were talking, and he pitched the idea. He was like, what do you think of this group? I want to do this group and this organization, and I want to, just develop this and have people know that we're here. And like, what do you think? And I'm like, that's an awesome idea. Like, absolutely. Because I mean, when I was at Maryland for a long time, I was the only Latina keeper, like in that department. So it's very rare to see minorities as keepers specifically. And that was his idea, because he was telling a story, and he can probably tell it better, but where he went to a conference, I believe, and he saw a Black man, and his own prejudice, and Craig is Black as well, and his own prejudice was like, oh, he's probably like, maintenance or something. And then he comes and he starts training the lion, and Craig's like, oh snap, you're a keeper, you're a Black guy, you're a keeper. And he talked to him, and I think that was the thing where he's like, I don't want that to be the thing when people see minorities at a zoo. I don't want that to be the first thought. So it was kind of like, how do we get more people that are in that science basically field, and how can we get to know each other? Because a lot of times people think that they're the only ones, because you
Right.
don't know if I don't know who works in Arkansas or in Idaho. And then with this, it's this network that kind of shows us that we're all here. And it's been such an easy way to connect with people now. And we actually have, in 2 hours, we have an icebreaker, our second icebreaker. So
Oh,
it's cool, because then you like log on and you see all these faces, and it's people from all backgrounds, and it's amazing to see like how, like, it's just crazy that it's grown as much as it has. So anyway, so he came to me with the idea, and originally he was like, I thought I was going to do like something for just Black zookeepers, but then his best friend Juan, who's also on our leadership, he's Puerto Rican. He was like, but what about Juan? Like, we want to represent everyone. So he was like, well, maybe I'll just get something that represents everyone. So we have our Asian representative as well. And then we have Native American, and we have just all over, like everything. And we just kind of just would get together, and he wrote a piece of paper and was like, what do you think of this? And like gave it to me, and like I edited it for him, and I showed my husband, and he was like, yeah, change this. And like we kind of just like all worked together, and he went ahead, he got a website, and he got the ball rolling by talking to Smithsonian like the top, management positions
Wow.
and pitching the group to them. And, Smithsonian was officially the first support organization, which was huge because it's regardless of the fact that we work there, it's still the Smithsonian
It's
saying
the
yes.
Smithsonian. Like,
Yeah.
it's
So that was
awesome.
such a big thing. And I think after that, all the other zoos kept coming in and supporting. And then we had like Disney, which is a big thing for me because I love Disney. And I was like, oh my God, Disney supporting us. This is
Oh,
amazing. And then AZA, which is, the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, they gave us their backing. And I was like, this is like really big.
this is
So
legit
it's
now.
been growing. Yeah, exactly. It's like, we're legit. Like this literally just started with like, what do you think? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And then it just like snowballed into this giant thing, which is fantastic. It's great. And we hope that it will continue to grow. And we've already seen so much besides just like the verbal support and the social media support. We've also had organizations like give us scholarships basically for our members to attend a conference or like virtual things and or become a member. So that is huge because a lot of times
Wow.
a lot of those memberships cost money. So
Yes.
it's like it's awesome. And like we basically just send out an application to our members and they apply and we vote on it and they get to like go. We just I think had two recipients for the AZAC conference that's coming up in September. It's virtual, but still it's like stuff that you that's like 300 and that's like $300 that the zoo that you work for or you didn't have to spend because
Right.
this organization was nice enough to give it to us through AMZAP. So it's just been like little things like that have been awesome, fantastic to see. Um, we've also through mentorship, we've also had I have about I want to say like 15 matches. So I've been able to pair people up with keepers or veterinarians or whatever. And then two of those have gotten full-time jobs
Oh
in
my
like
God.
just a little bit of time. So it's been awesome. It's been awesome to see like actual tangible things that are happening through the organization.
Oh my gosh. Ooh, that's just making me so excited just hearing everything that's come from that
Yeah.
already. That's so
Yeah.
beautiful. And you
Yeah.
personally, what do you hope to accomplish through your leadership role in this new organization?
Oh gosh. I don't know. I want to keep doing it. I think my ultimate goal, and I think it's not just my goal, I think it's all of our goals, is to be able to have a paid internship for someone. Like if we
Mm.
can like make that happen or even have like a annual scholarship or something that is like AMZAP scholarship, paid internship, stipend internship, something, I think that would be awesome. I think it's not anywhere in our near future, but I think that's like our long term goal would be
Mm.
able to do something like that. And I love helping people, and I love being able to help them succeed. And if I can inspire someone, then awesome. So I'm very happy with my role because I love meeting people and like just talking to them and kind of giving them my advice, especially because it was so hard for me. I think it's like a
Yes.
good way to be like, you can do it too. Like if I did it, you absolutely can do it. Let's help you get there and, set people up for success.
Mm. And that's another reason why I'm so excited to sit down with you because now, like, we've recorded your story right now. Like, we are recording it.
Yeah.
And just imagine the lives that it could touch. I mean, there might be a little girl that has a very similar story to you that has no idea where to even begin, or she sees you and she's like, "Oh, look at beautiful Carolina," and I want to follow her. How do I follow her? So, um, heck yeah, a girl, you are awesome. You're freaking awesome.
Thank you.
So what are the rules or how does someone become a member of this organization? Do they have to already be a zookeeper? Are they need to be in school? Do they just need to have some interest? Are there rules on what their ethnicity is? Like how does somebody become a member and how and support? AMZAP?
So we have currently two membership levels. So we have a professional membership and then we have like an affiliate membership. So for the professional, you do have to be currently employed. You don't have to be a keeper, but you do have to be employed currently by an accredited zoo. So the biggest thing is we just want to make sure that we're not kind of getting like Tiger King, like roadside, like that type of thing.
Oh,
We just
yeah.
want to make sure that you're working for a good zoo and that as you enter the network, you also will be, I might ask you to be a mentor, you know, and we don't want someone to mentor that is not coming from like a reputable zoo or a good facility. So that's the biggest thing with
So
that.
smart.
Yeah. But no, we don't have any restrictions at all. No racial restrictions or anything. Anyone can join. Obviously, like our focus is racial diversity and ethnic diversity, but we also have white members. We even have our communications director is a white woman. So she's done fantastic things for us. Like she is like our tech support communication person, Katie.
Oh,
I think she reached
yeah.
out to you.
Yeah, she did. She shared one of
Yeah.
Rewildology's posts today. I'm like, I'm talking to Carolina today. She's like, that's awesome. So, I was like, I'll keep you
So
posted.
Katie, she has been like monumental to everything that we've done. She has helped Craig with so much stuff and just helped us and just is fantastic. And I don't know how she does it. So she's a member and she's a steering committee member on top of that. So yeah, we're open to everyone. And then as far as being a student or wanting to get into the field, then most likely you would be under the affiliate member. And that way we can kind of help you and guide you to where you want to be. And it's different because one, yeah, you're there for support, but also when you're a professional member, then you have the opportunities that I just mentioned where you have like, you can apply for a scholarship for a conference, or you can network, and it's just different little programs, I guess you can say. And even mentoring is like a way to get professional development as well.
Oh, yeah,
like,
absolutely.
becoming a mentor. So it's just different facets, I guess, to the two memberships. Yeah.
So let's say that somebody is listening to this who maybe they're not in like the zoo or aquarium field, but they would love to participate in some way. Maybe they have an organization or they just have a strong passion for this, but maybe their career is in something else. Is there a way that they can support the
Yeah, I think, yeah. So we've gotten a lot of universities to like come to us, and I think we have some vet schools as well, and kind of just being like, how can we help? And we've had people like organizations, like honestly, the easiest thing would be like sharing posts, putting our website on your own website, like things like that, just giving us visibility. There is also a section on our page for support organizations. So if it's an organization, whether it's a university or an elementary school or another just organization completely, I think we'll list them there, and it kind of helps them as well, because it's like, oh, what's this organ? And you can click and it's like a link to their page and all that. But yeah, and usually if you just email AMZAP, like there's like a general email for there with whatever question about how to support. Usually it's Craig. We'll get back to you. They'll get back to you. And like, see, we love the support. So we're always like looking for ways to have, others help. But I think being able to, especially for colleges, it's so important to have colleges, because that's the critical time when people are deciding what they want to do. So being able to do that. We also have a job board on our page, which is super great, because it also helps the zoos, and we'll just be like, look, these are all the zoos or facilities that are hiring. And then it's kind of like we help each other.
Talk about direct marketing. Like, you can't get more pinpointed to the group of people you want than your organization having a job board. That is a super win-win.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. It's just, it helps our people that are looking to apply. And then it also helps your facility. If you're looking for more diversity, this is it.
This is literally where you need to go. Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
that's fantastic. Yes. No, thanks for that. Thanks for that. Because I mean, obviously I want to support in any way I can. And even though I'm
Hmm.
no longer in zoos and aquariums, sharing your stories and then any other way that I can help in my platform, more than happy to. And I'm sure there's other
Yeah. Thank you.
people that listen to this that are in other creative ways they could support as
Hmm.
well. So I really wanted to make sure there was an opportunity to talk about that. Because sometimes when you just see that, it's like, oh, but man, I'm not a zookeeper or I'm not an aquarist. Like,
Yeah.
but I would love to help. How can I do that? And so, yes.
Honestly, yeah. Just like I said, like just sharing stuff like it's super like people, just visibility, just getting people
Mm-hmm.
to see that we exist even is super helpful. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. That's awesome. Yeah. And of course, anyone asking any questions. And you know me, I'm like on social media way too much. I think like I told you earlier, I'm like I become like a social media manager, director thing too. So
Hmm.
yeah, any way to help online, I'm more than happy to help with that as well. So awesome. But that was great. Let's shift back to you a little bit and
Hmm.
let's dive a little bit more into your story. So um you've been through so much and I know that we've only barely scratched the surface. If we were having a happy hour, we'd probably go real deep. But what would you say and your story so far has been like your biggest struggle and how did you overcome that? Or if you're currently going through one and how are you working through that?
I think I'm trying to think. I think the biggest struggle was probably during that time where it was just, dealing with knowing that my mom probably could use monetary help and knowing that I kind of was just potentially wasting time by following this dream that I didn't even know that was going to happen. I think that was really hard to like I would come home and like cry and just be like am I wasting my time like, that was rough. I think that was like super hard when I first moved to Baltimore and all the bills started hitting and I
Mm.
hadn't gotten my first paycheck yet. That was hard. I called my mom crying and I was like, I need money. And like knowing that my mom doesn't have much money to start with. And then I was just calling her, being like, I don't know what I want to do. And she was like, yeah, I'll lend you the money. Like, that's totally fine. And I was like, really? And like, that just like, ugh, that was rough. Like, I was like in the bathroom at work, just like crying because I was like, I don't know how I'm going to pay all these bills. And like, I'm by myself in this state. And yeah, those were hard times, but we've, we've overcome them. We've
Yeah.
gotten past those, but that was hard.
Mm. Yeah. And that's why I always love asking that question because especially if maybe someone listening is going through something really hard right now, but to hear that
Hmm.
like you made it through and that sometimes you got to cry in the bathroom, but it's okay. Like you will make it through
Yeah.
as well. Um and I guess on the flip side of that too, when do you think you'll have made it? Like what is your definition of success and when do you think you'll reach that?
I I think I'm making it right now. I don't think I've made it, but I think I'm making it. I think being where I am has honestly even just with AMZAP, like I think it just opened up a bunch of doors that I didn't have before. So again, I'm like extremely grateful that Craig was just randomly like, "Hey, because he could have picked any other minority, and like the fact that he came up to me and I was like, "Yeah, let's do it," and that I think has opened up so many doors. So being in Smithsonian and being a primate keeper at Smithsonian has been fantastic. And that was like a thing that I never thought would happen either, because it's a super difficult zoo to get into. Um, so being able to get into that position was amazing. And now having this on the side as well, or on top of it, I think just makes me feel like I'm making a difference and being successful And that's really all I want. I don't like to feel stagnant, and
Mm-hmm.
I want to know that I'm always accomplishing something, and I want to have something to show, like, you've worked here for how long? What have you done? I don't want it to be like, I just went to work every day. I did this. I made a difference. I accomplished this. And this, I think, is a huge thing. And I am incredibly proud to be part of the organization and part of the leadership, and just being able to have helped found it, and, hopefully take it as far as it will go. But yeah, I'm always looking ahead and always looking to do more. I always want to do more.
And you will. With that kind of drive, girl,
Thank
you're
you.
gonna like change the freaking world. Hell yeah. That's awesome.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
also on that note too, what advice do you have for anyone listening?
Um, so I had an interview last week, and I said this here, but it was, one, celebrate the small wins. So even if it's, you have a keeper two position and you're just like feeding the giraffe or something, it's still something, and like that, be grateful for everything. I think gratitude changes your life in so many ways. Like, if you focus on all the negatives, your life is going to be negative. You have to be positive. You have to be grateful for what you have, even if it's a little bit. You have to, like, yes, this is an opportunity that you didn't have before. Also, something that I feel like I always do is, if I am given an opportunity or asked for, like, to participate in something, I always say yes. I don't necessarily know if that's the greatest advice for other people, but for me, it's like, why not? Yes. Like, for me, I'm like, you said you wanted to do more. This is more. Do it. Like, I've, in this year, I want to say, since I started working at Smithsonian, I have done so many just talks and like presentations and just talking to universities and classes and things like that. And this is like, that's something that I potentially would not have been able to do as much at my other zoo. But it also helps me grow. It also helps me know what works, what doesn't work. I gave a presentation in Spanish, again, thanks to Katie, she through AZAC, and it was to a bunch of keepers from Latin America, and that was awesome. I'm like,
Wow.
I would have never thought I could have done that, and it was like a full-blown PowerPoint presentation on ape training, all in Spanish, and I sent it to my mom. I'm like, what do you think? And she was like, this is great, but you need to change this and this and this. It's like grammatical things. I'm like, okay, cool. Thanks, mom. But yeah, it's just, I've gotten so many opportunities, and it's literally because I say yes to everything. I'm just like, yep, I'll do it. Yep. Because I always want to continue to grow and learn, and, that professional development, that's literally where it is. And then the more people get to know you and you get to see and do things, it's just going to help you in the long run. So
That is fantastic advice. Oh my gosh, yes, thanks. I say the exact same thing. It's like, because you don't know what door is opening unless unless your gut is telling you no, like, unless you feel deep down inside, like, I shouldn't do this. If that feeling isn't there, just always say yes, because there is a door that is possibly opening that might be to something that you could have never imagined in your life. And if you're saying no, that whole possible life path is shut off. So yes, completely agree with that. That is so good. That's so good.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think that I've taken up so much of your time now, and I've been so grateful for you giving me all of your life story and sharing so much about AMZAP. So if anybody wants to get a hold of you or the organization, what is the best way for somebody to go about that?
Yeah. So literally, if they go on the website, you can just shoot an email there. I think there's a link on all of our profiles to like contact us. So you can do it that way as well. I have a LinkedIn, and I think it's just my name, Carolina Powell. I think they'll just pop up there. Yeah, I think just AMZAP is probably the best and easiest way to do it. And we get all the emails and we'll see them. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. And yeah, and of course, as I always say, if anybody reaches out, I'll make sure they get in touch with you because there might be someone out there that would really love your mentorship because I'm sure you're a great mentor. And, it'd be wonderful to have someone like you for sure in everyone's life. So, but yeah, thank you so much for coming on, Carolina. I cannot
Of
wait
course.
to share your story with everybody.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Hey, thanks again for listening to this episode of Rewildology. If you like what you heard, hit that subscribe button to never miss a future episode. Do you have a cool environmental organization, travel story, or research that you'd like to share? Let me know at rewildology.com. Until next time, friends, together we will rewild the planet.